The Spurs are 54-18. They've won 22 of their last 24. They're second in the West. They're 4-1 against Oklahoma City this season. They swept the East leading Pistons. They're 20-11 against teams above 500. And the scariest spot is still the age of the core.
Castle, tough! Castle. Oh, how did he get it to go? It's into Wembanyama with the jackhammer! Rocks the rim!
Victor Wembanyama is 22, Stephon Castle is 21, Dylan Harper is 20. Last season, this team lost Greg Popovich to a stroke, lost Wembanyama to deep vein thrombosis, and finished 34-48. Now they look like a real title threat.
Career highlight. Did I tell you the time I blocked Victor Wembanyama? Oh, Wemby gave it right back to Vucevic.
That jumps feels crazy until you look at how San Antonio set this whole thing up. Then it starts looking less like luck and more like one long plan that kept changing shape without losing the point. This didn't happen by accident. The Spurs did not stumble into this. They spent years clearing dead money, stockpiling outs, and building toward a very specific kind of team. Everybody talks about Wembanyama. And obviously, they should. He's the center of the whole thing. Still, the full story is not just draft alien win games. The Spurs had to walk through the dead zone first. Tim Duncan retired in 2016. By 2018, Tony Parker was gone. Manu Ginobili was done. Kawhi Leonard had forced his way out. And Danny Green was gone with him in that trade. San Antonio got DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and the first-round pick that became Keldon Johnson out of the Kawhi deal. Though the bigger truth is uglier than that. The dynasty chapter had closed, and the team was stuck in the middle. That middle is where NBA teams get trapped. The Spurs were still good enough to tease respectability. They won 48 games in 2018-19 and pushed Denver to 7 in round 1. Then came 32-39, 33-39, and 34-48 over the next 3 seasons. The long playoff streak died. San Antonio stopped being scary and started being one of those teams people call well-run right before they stopped caring about them. That's dangerous territory because every year you pick 11th or 14th or 18th, you need a miracle just to matter again. The first quiet pivot came in the bubble. LaMarcus Aldridge, Trey Lyles, and Bryn Forbes were absent. Popovich leaned younger and faster. DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson, Poeltl, DeRozan at the 4. Weird lineups, more speed, more switching, more ball handlers. San Antonio went 5-3 in Orlando and saw something important. The old version of the Spurs was gone. The next version had to be more flexible, and Pop later confirmed that the philosophy shift was real and worth keeping. That philosophy matters because it basically explains the current team. The Spurs wanted 4 or 5 players on the floor who could dribble, pass, and shoot. They wanted a center used as an offensive hub instead of just a screener waiting for a lob. They wanted shared decision-making instead of one guy pounding the air out of the ball. Less rigidity, more optionality. That word mattered. Optionality. And now, with Wemby at the center of everything, the version they imagined in pieces actually exists. You can see it in the draft trail too. Keldon Johnson at 29 in 2019, Devin Vassell at 11 and Trey Jones at 41 in 2020, Josh Primo at 12 in 2021, Jeremy Sohan at 9 and Malachi Branham at 20 in 2022. Some of those swings hit, some didn't. Primo became a real organizational stain after the Spurs terminated his contract in 2022, and the league later suspended him for conduct detrimental. Sohan flashed real tools, real edge, real defensive versatility. Then got squeezed by the roster shift and was waived in February before joining the Knicks. San Antonio did not nail every pick. They just kept giving themselves more exits than most teams do. The real asset build started once they stopped pretending they were one tweak away. DeRozan went to Chicago in a sign-and trade for Thaddeus Young, Al-Farouq Aminu, a 2025 first-rounder, and seconds. Young got flipped to Toronto for a first that became Branham. Derek White went to Boston for Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, a protected 2022 first that became Blake Wesley, and a 2028 swap. Then came the move people hated at the time. DeJounte Murray and Jock Landale to Atlanta for first-round picks in 2023, 2025, and 2027 plus a 2026 swap. Poeltl later went back to Toronto for more draft capital. It looked like surrender, but it was really insurance. If the big swing in 2023 didn't hit, they still had ammo. And that Atlanta leverage still matters. The Spurs' own first-round pick would be 27th if the season ended today. So, the more interesting part is the possibility of swapping with Atlanta in 2026. They still hold that Hawk swap, and they still hold Atlanta's unprotected 2027 first. That means the Spurs are already great and still have another premium asset in play. Most contenders do not get to say that with a straight face. Then 2023 happened. The Spurs bottomed out, and the ping pong balls delivered Victor Wembanyama. That part was lucky. Sure, the reason the luck mattered is because San Antonio had already cleared the runway for it. No waffle long-term money, no fake contending nonsense, plenty of picks, a clear development structure. That's why Wembanyama landed in a place that could actually use him properly instead of just posting clips and losing by 22 every night. The season after drafting him mattered more than people realized too.
Victor Wembanyama from Nanterre, France.
Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes showed up in 2024-25 and gave the room structure. Paul assisted on 121 of Wembanyama's field goals in only 46 games together. That's not a small thing. It gave Wembanyama cleaner touches, steadier timing, and some old man control in a very young environment. It also gave Stephon Castle the perfect tutor. Castle won Rookie of the Year, and by the end of the year, he was already looking like much more than a simple starter. Then came the Fox trade. And this is where the front office deserves real credit. San Antonio got De'Aaron Fox in February 2025 and still kept the main young core intact. They gave up Trey Jones, Zach Collins, Sidi Sissoko, and 4 firsts. On paper, that sounds heavy. Look closer, and it looks sharper. Those picks were the 2025 protected Charlotte pick, the 2025 protected Chicago pick, the Spurs' own 2027 first, and a 2031 Minnesota first. They kept the much more interesting Atlanta stuff, including the 2026 swap and the unprotected 2027 Hawks first. They also bought low on a star who wanted to be there and understood that Fox had real interest in San Antonio as a destination. Fox later signed the 4-year, $229 million extension, which tells you this was not a rental gamble. This was a backcourt foundation move and a market reading move at the same time. The next draft kept the whole thing moving. The Spurs missed Cooper Flagg and still came away with Dylan Harper at number 2 and Carter Bryant at number 14. Harper made perfect sense for him. At Rutgers, he was one of the most efficient rim attackers in the class, even with ugly spacing and loaded up defenses. He's not a cartoon athlete. He doesn't need to be. He wins with angle creation, body control, patience, and sharp help defense reads as a passer. He can play both on-ball and off-ball, which is a huge reason he's fit so cleanly next to Fox and Castle instead of needing the whole defense handed to him. He's at 11.5 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 3.8 assists, and he just matched his career high with 24 in his first start against Indiana before following with 21 off the bench in Miami. Bryant is still more of a long game. He was the 14th pick, played in Rising Stars, did the dunk contest, and lately he started to flash more because of injuries and blowouts. Now look at the coaching side, because this could have gone off the rails. Greg Popovich suffered a stroke on November 2, 2024. Mitch Johnson took over. Then in May 2025, Popovich stepped down as head coach and moved into the front office as president of basketball operations. That should have been a destabilizing moment for a young team. Instead, Johnson steadied everything so well that he coached in the 2026 All-Star Game. San Antonio did not survive the transition. They accelerated right through it. And that was not the only scare. Wembanyama's second season ended early because of deep vein thrombosis after the All-Star break. Fox only got 5 games next to him before that diagnosis hit. Then Fox eventually shut it down for pinky surgery. So last season became this weird half-built thing where the partnership everybody wanted to see never really got room to breathe. This season has had plenty of bumps too. As of now, Fox has missed 9 games. Wembanyama has missed 16. Castle and Harper has missed 13 and Vassell has missed around a dozen. That's a lot of rotation disruption for a team sitting at 54 and 18. This season, Wembanyama came back looking stronger and more in charge. He's averaging 24.3 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 3 blocks, and he just became the fastest player since David Robinson to hit 4,000 career points and 600 blocks. He's the Defensive Player of the Year favorite, a real MVP dark horse, and the center of everything San Antonio does on both ends. Castle has jumped too. He's at 16.5 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 7.1 assists. And his wow moments are not normal rookie stuff anymore. He had a 40-point triple-double, became the youngest player in league history with a 40-12-12 game, put his name next to Wilt in the age record conversations, and had that wild night with Wembanyama where the two of them made Spurs history as a young star duo. Harper is already a real rotation guard and a contender. Fox gives him downhill pressure and late-game shot creation. Vassell is back to looking alive, and more importantly, he's been revived defensively. Keldon Johnson has settled into a cleaner role and is being used better. Harrison Barnes and Julian Champagnie stretch the floor. Luke Cornett, which looked like a minor signing in July, has given him real backup center minutes all season. And defensively, Carter Bryant, Champagnie, and Castle have become this long interchangeable layer around Wembanyama that makes switching and recovering way easier than it was a year ago. Sean Sweeney matters too. He came over from Dallas as associate head coach, and the defense changed fast. San Antonio finished 25th in defense last season. They're now third in defensive rating at 111.4, behind only Oklahoma City and Detroit. That's not cosmetic improvement. That's a full identity shift. More pressure at the point of attack, better rotation speed, more switching lengths, more trust behind the first line because Wembanyama is sitting there erasing mistakes. And the team numbers are flat-out contender numbers. Basketball Reference and StatMuse both have him sitting around a 119 offensive rating, a 111 and change defensive rating, and a plus 7.5 net rating, right near the very top of the league. Reuters had him at 53-18 2 days ago, and 54-18 after the Miami game, with a 22-2 record since February 1st. They already clinched a playoff spot. They've handled Oklahoma City better than anyone in the league has, going 4-1 against the defending champs. They swept Detroit. They're not fake scary, they're the kind of scary that makes the bracket matter. That's the wild part. 2 years ago, they were dead last in the West. Now they have a franchise center, a franchise guard under long-term contract, the reigning Rookie of the Year, the number 2 pick from the next draft already contributing, a defense that actually scares people, and future draft leverage is still sitting in the vault. That's not a rebuild anymore. That's a team arriving early and still holding extra chips. So now the real question is simple. In a 7-game series right now, do you trust San Antonio against Oklahoma City? And if your answer is no, how much longer do you think that answer stays no?